There's a question that's always puzzled me about the Nintendo 3DS. And yes, I know that the 3DS came out, 7 or 8 years ago at this point. I think it came out in 2011. Something that always puzzled me was the power saving mode in the screen settings. You can see it here in the camera. I'm sure I'm going to cut to some B-roll to show you what I mean, but it's basically this power saving mode off or on in the screen brightness settings. Now, I usually prefer to keep the power saving mode set to on because it tends to reduce the blue light a fair bit, and that, of course, reducing blue light reduces strain on the eyes. It plays into our circadian rhythms and our sleep patterns and everything like that. So by and large, I just preferred to have the power saving mode set to on to reduce that blue light. But then I wondered, how much power does it actually save? How much quantifiable power does it save in terms of percentage in minutes versus having power save mode off? And again, I know that the 3DS is kind of an older system at this point, but it is still very, very popular. And we had recent news come out of E3 that prior to E3, you saw a lot of stuff on YouTube and in the blogosphere and all that kind of stuff, all the tech reporters saying, facetiously, the 3DS is dead. Well, after E3, it turns out the 3DS is very much so not dead. Nintendo did say that they don't plan to release any, if any, more first-party titles for the 3DS. So you might not see any brand new, Super Mario Land, Super Mario 3D Land, whatever, new titles for it. But that 3DS is still very much supported, and it's still very much open to third-party development. So Nintendo has not given up on the 3DS. So that means in this market now, you can pick up a used 3DS for, you can go onto eBay and probably pick one up in various conditions from $25 to good conditions over $50, $60, maybe $70. The point is that 3DS is still a very affordable system. Even if you were to go and buy a new one, it's still fairly affordable, but I would recommend picking one up used, maybe on eBay or Amazon or something like that. You could try your luck at GameStop, but do your research. Go in there and see it first and test it, because they can be pretty grody at GameStop. This one I got from GameStop, it was actually in very good condition. I think I got it for, I want to say $90, which I know a lot of you are scoffing at. $90 for a 3DS? You could have got it on eBay. I know. That's not what I'm getting at. Right now, I'm just saying 3DSs are affordable, and it is still being supported by Nintendo. So how much does that power saving mode actually save? According to Nintendo, it's, I believe the figure was between 10 and 20%, 15 and 20%. Maybe it was a little more than that. I'm sure I'll put the graphic up here on YouTube for you to see. But I wanted to test it myself, so I ran my own tests on power saving mode. Now here, with it on and off. Now here's some caveats. The battery in here, to my knowledge, has not been renewed. It's not a new battery, and batteries age. As batteries age, their capacity goes down, their runtime goes down. So I wanted to keep my tests as linear and apples to apples as positive. So I did not swap out the battery in here. I didn't test it with one battery and then test it against another battery to see which battery lasts longer or anything like that. No, this is just the battery that came with my 3DS. So what I did here was I loaded up, I'm kind of guide you through the my mentality here, my methodology here. I put Street Fighter 4 cartridge into my 3DS and I loaded up the game. What I did was I charged it both times for both tests. I charged it 100% complete. I waited for the orange light to turn off. I unplugged it. I plugged it right back in so that orange light would come on again and then turn off again. So that way I knew that I was at the absolute most full charge both times. Then I plugged it back in, turned it on with it still plugged in. I fired up the demo mode basically for Street Fighter 4, and then I just let it run. So while the demo mode was running and it's still plugged in, at a predetermined time, I just unplugged it the charging cable from the back so that I assured that it was topped up 100% so I get the same results in both tests. So here is what I found for the first test, and I'm going to kind of ramble on here for a second as the footage rolls through here. This is with power saving off. So this is just normal mode, power saving off. I have the camera running the entire time so that we pick up everything. Hopefully I can fast forward through this in a fast enough time so that this video doesn't become 3 hours long. And here is my first result. Sorry if I had to crossfade or something like that, but here is my first result in normal mode, no power saving. This is how long the battery lasted in minutes. So now we're going into the second result, and I did the same methodology. I charged it all the way up with the power off. I charged it all the way up, wait for the orange light to turn off. Then I unplugged and plugged the power cord back in so the orange light came on briefly and then turned off again so that I made sure that it's completely full. Then I turned it on, still plugged in, put it into power saving mode, same screen brightness, same everything, same game, loaded up Street Fighter 4, got into the demo mode. Again, this isn't power saving, and I unplugged the power from it while the demo mode was running at the same predetermined time. And this way I was able to make sure that it was at 100% capacity and just to see how long it would run at 100% capacity. So I let it run, and it wound up being about 35 minutes or so. You'll see the stats here on the screen. It wound up going in power saving mode considerably longer than in non-power saving mode, which I was very pleased to see. So now let's get into the facts and figures of it all. Let's quantify it into real terms. Did it come close to Nintendo's official claims or not? Let's break it down. All right, so let's tally things up. I have the official numbers right here in front of me. In normal mode, I started the test, that is, I pulled the plug at 1:02 p.m. and 52 seconds. That was the start. The end was 4:37 p.m. and 5 seconds. That's exactly when it died. And I'm rounding down a little bit in time here. I'm not doing fractions of a second. I can't tell the fractions of a second. So all of these measurements are rounding down. So the total run time in normal mode was 3 hours, 34 minutes, and 13 seconds. The total minutes, again, rounding down, is 214 minutes. So there's no seconds on there. There's 13 extra seconds. We're rounding down here to a nice, clean total runtime in normal mode of 214 minutes. All right, let's get to power saving mode. In power saving mode, I ran the test again, fully charged. I pulled the plug at 2:17 p.m. and 23 seconds. It officially ended its power cycle. It turned off by itself at 6:29 p.m. and 1 second. So rounding down, the total time was, I'm not rounding down here, but rounding down the fractions of a second here, the total time was in power saving mode, 4 hours, 11 minutes, and 38 seconds. To remind you, the total time in normal mode was 3 hours, 34 minutes, and 13 seconds. In power saving mode, it was 4 hours, 11 minutes, and 38 seconds. So the total minutes, rounding down from 38 seconds, I know that you could, maybe I should have rounded up. I'm not going to round up. I'm doing worst case scenario, so I'm rounding down. I'm shaving off 38 seconds. The total minutes was 251 minutes in power saving mode versus 214 minutes in normal mode. So let's get to the difference. This is the difference that power saving mode actually makes on the Nintendo 3DS. The increase in time from normal mode to power saving mode was 37 minutes, or about 17% more time. Again, rounding down from the actual figure of 17.28%. So, in that test, in power saving mode, letting the demo run, I was able to gain about 17% more uptime on the Nintendo 3DS in power saving mode. Now, a few little asterisks here. That doesn't mean that every single time you play a game or you use your Nintendo 3DS that you're going to get my exact figure here. You're not going to get exactly 17% more time when you play or when you use your Nintendo 3DS. For one thing, the actual life cycle of the battery may be different for your 3DS. You may have a brand new battery, you may have an old battery that doesn't last 10 minutes, who knows? The type of game you play has a dramatic effect. For instance, the demo mode I had going on here in Street Fighter 4 was interweaving basically 2D video with 3D demos, and I wasn't inputting on the buttons, I wasn't, clicking on the buttons, I wasn't actually interacting with the device because I wanted a good baseline procedure here. I wanted a good baseline metric, so I didn't touch anything. I just let it run, and I was able to get 17% more uptime. Am I going to get 17% every single time? That is, am I going to be doing something, let's say, that normally gets me 4 hours, and now will I get, almost 5 hours out of it or whatever? That's about 20% or so. No. All I was doing here, the main goal here wasn't to prove exactly how much time you precisely get extra in power saving mode. I was just trying to see if power mode made any measurable distance and any measurable difference. And what I found was it absolutely does. 17%, that's dang near 20%. Maybe you'll get 10% more. Maybe you'll get 20% more. Maybe you'll get 15% more. But I've proven here, as was my only goal with all of this, that power saving mode does make a marked increase in your uptime. And I figured it would. And I know that this test is, by definition, 8 years too late. But like I said, I think there's a big resale market for the 3DS. I couldn't find a video on YouTube detailing the actual power savings in power saving mode, so I wanted to do it. And above all, my channel is called Geek Therapy Radio, where we celebrate the inner geek in all of us and all of our geek things, and it's just fascinating and fun to do this. That is the most important thing with all of this, and why I did it was just fascinating. I was curious about it. That's a good enough reason to do any sort of scientific or artistic endeavor. If you find it fascinating, if you find it intriguing, then just do it. If more of us would do that, I could have easily just turned to Angry Birds on my phone or wasted my time some other way, but this was a fun thing to do. I was curious about it, I wanted to figure it out, and I thought maybe you'd have fun learning with me in this endeavor. Maybe it encourages you to go do something that you're curious about, something safe, something helpful, something therapeutic, whether it's art or designing a video game or coding or even, making wicker baskets, whatever you're into, flying RC airplanes. You might have speculated about RC aircraft, RC models and things like that. Maybe it seemed interesting to you, so maybe your curiosity will take you to the hobby shop to try it. This world is full of curiosities to explore. All I did was explore curiosity with a Nintendo 3DS in power saving mode, and it was a very enriching, enlightening process to go through. So I'm happy I did it. Hopefully you enjoyed watching me do it. Maybe you learned a little something. Maybe it'll encourage you to actually pick up the 3DS. Kudos to Nintendo for getting their marks accurate, even though, yes, it's 8 years after the Nintendo 3DS came out. Either way, hope you enjoyed the video. Please consider subscribing. I know that you do not have to subscribe. You're not obliged to subscribe. So I appreciate your consideration. And until next time, embrace your inner geek. Love your inner geek. Let's share our geek enthusiasm with others. This is great geek therapy to share our geekiness with others because we're all geeks about something. So until next time, be good to yourselves and others, and take care.